shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So finally, after a few years, I don't know why it took me this long, because there's so many films that I look at, and many films that are on my list of things to see, and then, of course, there are films that I rewatch a few times. Because this was the basis for an American movie by Martin Scorsese, I decided I should finally watch Infernal Affairs, which is directed by Andrew Lau. It was released in the United States in 2004, but it's a 2002 film. And I have to say, I was quite entertained by it. It's a very good movie. I wouldn't say it outclasses The Departed, which is the American remake, of course. And this film, by the way, has been remade also in South Korea and Japan later on, after The Departed. But both films really work together so well because the story is so good. It's really a good story. So, and the way it's told in this film is more of an action-driven vehicle to a certain extent, whereas I think The Departed might have been a lot more psychological, for sure. But this film should not be dismissed. Infernal Affairs is a terrific entertainment. So, the film is directed by Andrew Lau, who directed two more movies in this series. There was a prequel and a sequel. So Infernal Affairs 2 and Infernal Affairs 3. I like the title Infernal Affairs. It's really very much a hellish landscape that you see in this movie to a certain extent, because there's so much tension. It's very thick with tension, every single frame of this movie. So there's Andy Lau as Senior Inspector Lau King Ming for the police detective for the Hong Kong police force. He is the mole in the police force because he is working with Han Sam, who is the triad boss, played by Eric Sang. If I don't get these pronunciations right, I'm sorry. What can I tell you? I do my best. So, essentially, he is there to help Han Sam do the job he wants to do, which is the drug smuggling, cocaine, whatever, without any interference from the police, who are keeping tabs and surveillance on Han Sam. That's basically the idea. So it's no different, really, than from The Departed. Now, Tony Leung is Chan. Now, he is an undercover cop in Han's triad, and probably has been there, from what I gather, what I remember from the film, almost a whole decade. So it's a lot longer than even Leo DiCaprio's character had been with Jack Nicholson's mob boss. So is either one of these moles going to find out who is the other, because they're trying to figure this out? Chan wants to know who's the mole in the police force. Lau's trying to figure out who's the mole in Han Sam's triad gang members. Which one is it? And so the film develops no differently than The Departed, really. I mean, it obviously borrows a lot, which, I mean, is no surprise, because they based William Monahan, who wrote the Departed, based a lot of what you see from this film. It's just the execution is very different in many ways. One of the big differences, I think, is there's also the use of slow motion. Some of it is quite effective. In particular, the scene with Anthony Wong as Superintendent Wang Chi-sheng, who is Chan's superior. And he really is trying to protect Chan and trying to get him out. And he's the one that has that very telling line in the film where he says, I'm not sure you're much of a cop anymore. You may as well be, you may as well stay with the triad. You are one of them. A lot of that brings up memories, too, of Donnie Brasco, if some of you remember, from 1997, a film directed by Mike Newell, which also dealt with a mole. In the case of that picture, it was from the FBI, Donnie Brasco himself, played by Johnny Depp. Donnie Brasco is definitely superior to Infernal Affairs, or, again, totally different movies, but in terms of the psychological aspect of being somebody who is a mole in either one of these cases. And The Departed, like I said, I think it fleshed it out a whole lot more. However, it's not to dismiss this picture. Again, I like the use of slow motion. In the case of Wong, the superintendent, when he's thrown off the roof and lands on a car, there was something about it that was quite unsettling. Not unlike The Departed. Whatever happens, happens. And here, the film kind of slows down and sort of soaks it in the moment, the emotional impact. That's not to say it's better, it's just different. Now, apparently, the script of Infernal Affairs was inspired by John Woo's Face Off, which is a very different type of movie altogether than this film or The Departed. Whether you're in the police force or you're in the triad, and you are, it's about deception, but are you deceiving yourself? Again, I think a lot of that was fleshed out in The Departed. But this movie is very entertaining. It's very well acted. I love seeing Hong Kong at night. A lot of the those street scenes and everything else. A lot of that was very well done. And the performances. I think, in particular, when you have Andy Lau, he is just moving in with his girlfriend, I think, in the film. And that's one of the big differences between this and The Departed. The Departed, you had the therapist or psychiatrist who was involved with both Leo DiCaprio, who was the mole in Jack Nicholson's gang, versus Matt Damon, who's the mole in the police force, trying to protect Nicholson. There you just had one woman. Here there are two, but it seemed that there was a little bit more emphasis to a certain extent with this other girl that's living with Lau. Then you have a therapist, Chan's a psychiatrist, who is played by Kelly Chen, and she's not, they have a session, but he mostly sleeps through it. Interestingly, in The Departed, there are a couple of more sessions, and then, of course, there's a romantic involvement. Here, it's sort of suggested that they could be more intimately involved, and then things happen. The other big difference, so there's a spoiler here, so stop if you don't want to hear it. In The Departed, Colin Sullivan, played by Matt Damon, who is the mole and turns out to be, a really evil piece of garbage, he is executed. He's killed by Dignam, played by Mark Wahlberg in that picture. Here, that doesn't happen at all, because Andy Lau, although he's discovered by his fiancée with I think it was a compact disc that's played in the stereo, and it's something that was delivered by Chan, if I'm not mistaken, to the fiancée, she discovers that he is a mole. But another person, not unlike The Departed, is seen as the mole, and not Lau. So Lau is not killed in this movie. He survives, and he gives full honors to Chan, who is killed by Big B. So it just develops in a very different way. The protagonist, who we feel should suffer for his sins to some degree, is the one that survives, and hence why they made Infernal Affairs 2 and 3. Or at least the third one, I think, is more a direct sequel. The second one is a prequel. Interestingly, when they were shooting The Departed, after the film was screened, some of the producers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, were a little, a little angry at the fact that no characters basically survive in The Departed. There's a bigger mortality rate than even in this film. And because they were planning a prequel and a sequel, and now they couldn't do it. And of course, we've never seen either one to The Departed. But this film is definitely worth seeing. It's entertaining. It just doesn't have the deep exploration and psychology from The Departed. But it is definitely worth seeing. Absolutely. If you haven't seen Infernal Affairs, check it out. That's what I got to say. I mean, I really found it quite entertaining, and it's terrific. Now, the odd thing is that this is a DVD, which I've held on to for a few years before I finally got around to seeing it, because I forgot I even had it. It says loyalty, honor, and betrayal, and you see the two characters here. But then there's this woman here holding a gun. What the hell is that all about? That doesn't happen in the film at all. I don't know who that's supposed to be. It's either the psychiatrist. It's not the fiance. Who is that? It suggests that there's some sort of love triangle here, which isn't the case at all. But definitely worth seeing. So what are your thoughts? Have you seen Infernal Affairs? What do you think of it? How does it compare for you to The Departed? I would say The Departed is more of a, how can I put it, a riff, if you will, on Infernal Affairs, and just done in a very different way. Even though a lot of scenes are very similar throughout this film, both films still explore the idea of moles and identity. Can you lose sight of the person that you were when you're doing something like this, which is a very dangerous business for either one of these protagonists in this film. So definitely worth checking out. So let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. And I guess that's about it. If you're new to this channel, please hit like and subscribe. It's good for the algorithms, as they say. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you. And hit the notification bell for future uploads. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.